Someone once said everyone sees the world in a different way, so when someone dies, it is, in a way, the death of an entire world. So, Reddit, what unique world will die with you? Where people want to know what the plant of an eggplant is. The unique world of every broken street light being promptly reported to the local council for remediation. After I've passed, the areas that I live and work will literally be darker without me. I have a book I'm trying to finish before I die. I started the world building when I was a teenager as a way to stay sane. I needed something to daydream about when I was bored, and I filled over a dozen notebooks and sketchbooks with content. I channeled all the crazy things going on in my life into the characters. I've got about 4 books worth of content typed out now, one I am trying to clean up. I saw a post the other day about someone who published their late dad's book because he was too afraid to do it himself. That scared the shit out of me. I don't want to die and for my entire fake world to disappear. Even if it sucks, I want it to live on. Edit. I'm totally blown away by everyone's feedback and support. Someone suggested at least making a sub. It's here, /r/highlightgods. I'm very busy today so can't add anything to it just yet, and I don't quite know what I'm going to do with it, but it's there. The amount of original stories I made up out of boredom. Some of which I haven't finished as I can't find the proper ending. Aw shit man, all my dumb characters. Bold of you to assume that I ever will die. About 5 worlds will die with me cause I have 4 dogs. A real shitty one. Me and my friend created a whole fantasy world, with history, and characters and stuff. Thing is, despite it being our world, I think we both see it differently. We both have different interpretations of the characters and we don't always agree on the small details. If I were to die, maybe the whole world wouldn't be lost, but it'll be incomplete. My world won't die because I've written it down. I am a daughter, the oldest to both my mother and father. I am a granddaughter, to 5 people. I am a sister, to 7 people. I am the only sister one of them will ever have. I am a wife, the first to my husband. I am a dog owner, the only owner he's ever known. People describe me as caring and thoughtful. They say I always try to see 2 sides to the story even if I am invested. They say I am imaginative. They say I can sing decently as well as draw. They tell me I can be very loud, proud and opinionated but also very quiet. There are people like me all over the world, so my life and characteristics may not be unique. But no one else will be able to say that they are the oldest to my mother and father, that they are the granddaughter to 5 people, that they are the sister of my 7 siblings, that they were the first wife of my husband, that they were the only owner my dogs ever had. So while my experiences and characteristics aren't unique, who I am to the people I love is, and that is what would die with me. Anyone ever feel lonely inside your own head? Stuck in your own world, only being able to reach out through this flesh? Recently, I've made an intentional choice to be very open about my world, even if it hurts to tell. I'm wanting to be vulnerable about my broken world, and the pain that I feel. Because if someone can connect to that, then maybe they can experience a part of my world as well. And maybe I can experience a part of theirs. The more vulnerable I am, the less lonely I feel in my own head. As an actual answer and an attempt to not be pretentious, This isn't helped by the fact that it's 3 a.m. I do feel that all things considered, I have a pretty uncommon route to life. And though I have an incredibly low self-esteem at times, I do recognize that a lot of people see me as a close friend, and I'm constantly surprised and mildly confused at how many feel that I'm a good person. While some things like my love for astronomy and for my pet snake would die with me, I think the most impactful thing would be a harm to my friends. We all have our own stories and experiences, and while mine may be different than some, they aren't unique. However, my relationships with my friends and my loved ones are something I treasure and recognize as rare, and those are the most important things that would die with me. JK, I love my pet snake more than like maybe 1 or 2 humans. It's the intangibles. The countless valueless immeasurable moments. It's nothing. But it's everything. I'm going through a really bad rough patch of depression and anxiety right now, and I'm probably going to voluntarily have myself committed to the hospital tomorrow. I feel like I don't know up from down, but I know one thing for sure, and it's that the people around me and the memories I've made with them are really all that matters to me. I can't keep letting myself hurt without hurting them. I don't even know why I decided to open up like this. But that's my answer. What an overwhelmingly difficult question to ask. I really had to think here. What unique ideas will die with me? What about ideals? I had to ask how I see the world. I don't think there is anything that would die with me that is special in any way. Over the last 10 years I've really withered as a person. I haven't seen or heard anything anyone else hasn't. The stories I used to write have all but vanished from even my own memory already. I'm too fearful and submissive a person to have done exciting, beautiful, or adventurous things. I don't think anything special would be lost with me, all things considered. Kinda high and just talking off the top of my head. I'll regret this tomorrow, I'm sure. The life I've spent in this house, my changes to it, my loves, successes and failures I've had in it, will be gone. I've only lived here 20 years, moved in at age 32, but this place was owned by 3 families since 1953 and then a landlord who rented it out for decades, so I'm just one of many, many people who lived here. I've changed it plenty, and continue to do so, and so I know it'll probably have a few more owners before it's torn down. It's got a totally dry and finished basement, new windows/doors/shingles, etc., and so my 20, and hopefully many more, years here will be unknown and forgotten. And now I have to go to bed, work the night shift. Cue existential angst circuit in brain while I try to sleep. I guess you will never know. One where Danny DeVito is revered as a god. This is one of the things I fear. My mother died without really leaving any of herself other than the physical presence of myself and my siblings. I have no idea what she enjoyed beyond the absolute basics, how she thought or what her own goals were. My dad found it too painful to talk about it when we were children, and now that I'm putting these questions to him as an adult, he's realizing that there's a lot he doesn't know or remember either. It's not a fun experience for him. They say the first time you die is your actual death. The last time you die is when no one remembers your name or who you were. Having seen how quickly that second death will likely come for my mother, I'll tell my daughter her name, but there's not much else to pass on. I know more about her mother than I do about her. And I never met my maternal grandmother. But my grandmother left writings, she was bipolar AF, and definitely operating on a different reality than most, but I can at least grok how she thought. It makes me hyper-aware that I could just fade into obscurity, and I really don't like that. I want to help people, make a mark. I try here on Reddit, because at the moment I don't have the resources or spoons to do much else, but I also have to square with the fact that a lot of the time, my point of view hits a cross-section that most people don't like very much. I was immersed in a very touchy-feely, artsy, social justice type circle in my teens. I wanted to be a writer and a comic artist. I spent time on Tumblr, and in the company of people who like to experiment. Then things took an abrupt 180 when my college boyfriend slapped me so hard I spun. I cheated on him, so I understand his anger. However, he refused to be held accountable for the issues that led to cheating, and I had no coping mechanisms or scripts at the time for how to gracefully remove myself from situations that were no longer working for me. I know better now, but at the time I was an idiot. That doesn't mitigate the bone-chilling fear when someone twice your size decides to do violence towards you. And that fear crystallized into a purpose. I never wanted someone else to feel that fear if I could help it. I wanted to empower others and protect them. I spent 7 years trying to get into policing. After that, I wanted to specialize in domestic violence, discrimination, and community building, and I worked security to gain experience. Unfortunately, a brutal work-related injury coupled with an episode of stress/pain-induced suicidal depression likely means that I will never work in law enforcement. I'm a liability. The recruiters won't come out and say it, but I can read between the lines. So I walk two very opposing worlds. On one hand, the world of feelings, intersectionality, and self-reflection, pushing and questioning authority and artistic expression. And the world where meticulous documentation, understanding the nuances of authority and law doesn't always line up with the application of justice or compassion, but why it's there anyways. How the nasty realities of human nature don't always line up neatly with people's overly optimistic. Everyone is reasonable if you take the time to reason with them, or overly pessimistic. People are inherently selfish and self-absorbed viewpoints, and where violence is a tool in a toolbox instead of an oppressive thing to be feared and avoided. And neither group really wants to listen to the other. Maybe I can try to bridge that, but I'm struggling with how. My son's world. I have what my therapist likes to refer to as chronic suicidal ideation. I've had a breakdown more than once over the thought of leaving my son. He's a happy and healthy neurotypical almost 6-year-old, but he has a speech delay. He was maybe 4 and I took him to a local park. We were playing alone for a bit when children older by just a few years came along. He was so excited to have kids to play with. And he had so few words at this point. He ran up and said hi. Then threw his arms wide to gesture towards me. This is my mom. He was so fucking proud of me. He did it again recently, when I showed up to his kindergarten class. So yeah. Safe to say I can never die. Shit, that's deep. I got upset and ruined my 5th birthday party by throwing a gigantic fit and making sure I made an exaggerated frowning face in all of my pictures as a reminder to my mom to never interrupt me while I was talking, to take a candid/unflattering photo. Whatever world that created a 5-year-old birthday terrorist probably needs to die much sooner than I most likely will. Side note, every adult who confronted me about my bullshit that day tried to tell me that I was ruining my birthday and I would regret it. I justified it to each of them by letting them know that I would have other 5th birthdays because everything repeats itself after we die and the universe dies. They thought I was stupid, but Futurama showed the same theory, and I clearly don't regret my actions, so I'm obviously not the stupid one. Everything is a game, or at least, it should be. The way I look at my wife and kids. I am a very non-competitive, mind-your-own-business, sort of guy. I like that about myself. Not everything has to turn into a pissing contest. As I enter my mid-30s, I am realizing that I make friends easily. People tell me they like talking to me and I am always taken aback. Not constantly trying to one-up everyone and not doing constant comparisons is actually refreshing to people. And my personal life is surprisingly happy, most of the times, so yeah. Live and let live actually works wonderfully. A world of disappointment. When my mom dies. She was diagnosed with stomach cancer a few months ago and I am scared that when I come back from school mom isn't coming back home to cook for me and my dad. She is healthy, but I still worry. A world of despair, doom, gloom, unrequited love, unfulfilled ambition and suffering, in which case I'm glad it would die with me. My unique world is very mundane, yet I was content with it. But now what I'm trying to imagine is the unique world of a synesthesia. How different is their world from the others? The sad and unfair world will die with me. All the books I've written. I'm 17 years old, a young composer. Last year my first ever complete composition, a piece for string quartet, won a competition. I've been accepted to a few universities already to read music or composition specifically next year, and I've got hundreds of little sketches and ideas just waiting for me to have enough time so I can make them into something that I can truly be proud of. And of course it set me thinking, because of course, realistically the odds of me being able to become a composer by occupation, or the odds of my works making any significant impact or being remembered at all are infinitesimal. And yet I still feel that if I leave the house tomorrow and step off the curb right into the path of an oncoming bus, something of worth will be lost, because my ideas are valuable to me and I'm sure they'd be valuable to someone. Even if I'm not destined to become the next Messiaen or whatever, it would still be a shame that the art that I would go on to make would be lost. Fairly pretentious deep XD comment here, but I guess it's just been on my mind a lot recently. I'm going off to uni next year, committing to years of work in pursuit of this goal to be a composer, and I plan to pursue masters and PhD in composition as well, if I can find a way to make enough money to put myself through it. 2019 has been just as much about getting into a uni that can prepare me for that as it has been about coming to terms with the fact that it might not be enough, and I may very well fail to achieve my dream regardless of how much study and effort and hard work I undertake. Night creatures. When I was little I would help my nana clean up after dinner. All the food scraps went in a big flat rock outside the house, she said, to feed the night creatures. This was only a thing between me and her, my brother has no memory of it. Nana died when I was 6, but I still remember the night creatures. My entire imagination, which I find quite compliment to expect. I should write all the stories I have down, but I never felt like it. The world of music I create through improvisation at the piano or organ will die with me. Every improviser has a unique style that becomes their signature, hallmark musical nuances that can't be replicated by others. No uniquities here. My world is where I unconditionally loved a man who had been forsaken by all other women. He is happy that he doesn't feel so alone anymore and that he can die happy. I think we all see color a little differently. Probably one shade off from the next person. My red could be your orange. If I die, the way I see color dies with me. The life that I lived with my dog, who recently passed away. He and I were the only ones fully privy to that 16 years long relationship, the ups and downs, the one-way conversations, the quiet moments snoozing in the sun, the chaotic drying off sessions after a walk in the rain, and all the other things that made up the contents of our world. We lived a full and beautiful life together, he and I. With him gone, I am now the only keeper of those memories. When I go, so will that world. My never-ending stupidity in thinking the best of people. Even though I'm 56, I'm still constantly surprised by other people's awful behavior, or taking advantage of others. I swear, it's like a syndrome or something. I never seem to learn. I keep on thinking that this person or that person wouldn't steal or cheat, but they do. They always do. I'm fortunate within my family as I've never been burned by them, but friends, co-workers, strangers, bosses, an ex, extended warranties, even doctors. I keep thinking the best of them, while they dismantle me. My husband passed a month ago. Our happy little weird world is gone. I feel so lost in this new one. It fucking sucks. The world that loved all those little and beautiful things, found even the simplest things amusing and that let everyone just be yet could never fit in. There are very few good people in this world you can count on, so you need to do 99% of the things you want yourself. So, the independent the whole kind of world? I don't believe anything unique will die with me. There's no way, out of all the people in the world, I am the only one with a specific thought, feeling, story, or whatever. The only thing that sets us apart is which of these thoughts, feelings, and stories we combine. Imagine there's a cheese board with brie, Gouda, Parmesan cheese, and some grapes. I eat the brie and a grape, and you eat Gouda and Parmesan. We do not eat the same food. You and I are completely different and unique. But then someone else comes and eats Parmesan and a grape. Their combination is different from ours, but they are not unique. More and more people will join our cheese board and add their own cheeses and eat their own selection of cheese, but all in all we are not unique or special, because we all share part of what we ate with someone else. Interesting to see this question at the top of my feed today. I feel obligated to answer truthfully, which even on here sometimes I keep it quiet. I have multiple personalities. I have had them since I was a child. I suffered abuse from my stepfather. I have had a very rough start to life. But I am a survivor. These alters of mine have spent the last 10 years arranging themselves and the system to work together. Through psychosexual relationships and self-harm and even the recent loss of my first child, my insides have somehow managed to keep it together. I've been in and out of therapy most of my life, but can happily say that using techniques learned previously in therapy I am able to function at home on a daily basis now. I guess it's still not quite the inner description you asked for. But the altars, and their island, persist always. It's like a second world, with laws and physics. And as a collective, we fear the day that may be our last. So I try very hard to make sure my life is tops, worth living and fighting for. Mine. A world of hope, optimism, pain, loneliness, treacherous conditions, feeling of being extremely happy yet be depressed, out of love and out of order, obsession of photography and astronomy. A world where people shouldn't necessarily trust each other, but should always assume that people are acting in a way that will bring them happiness. We remember that someone else's happiness is as valuable to them as ours is to us, and that even a smiling, laughing, joyous person who's basically Hitler is something to celebrate. Because they feel the same joy that you feel. Everyone should hit some DMT at the same time, grinning face with sweat. Most of the times, I think like, why have I been born at this very specific time? I could have born earlier, or say even before. Why have I born at where I am? It really confuses me sometimes. I have never had the desire to harm anyone, or any living creature. When I look around myself, I see almost everyone that surrounds me getting pleasure out of hurting an ex- or a family member, or their political opposition. Revenge is big. Sticking it to someone with opposing beliefs is a sport. I have watched other parents look on with a smile as their kids stomp anthills or burn bugs with a magnifying glass. I genuinely don't get that, feeling that life should be allowed to go on. Trying to teach this philosophy to my kids has been tough. But they get it more than I thought they would. There is little doubt that I have done harm, in many ways. But I have always wished that it not be so. This is not to say that this perspective is unique to me. But it is definitely a world that will die with me. I hope it carries on in someone else. Whenever it rains and I see droplets bead down my car window, I pick two and I race them to see who can get to the other side faster. So I guess if I die, my droplets race would cease to exist. The world full of sadness, depression, and loneliness will die. Well, I have a multiverse I designed in my head and have been building on since I was like 4. My romanticized version of what I think living in North America will be like. My love for nature, to plant trees and plants of all kinds and watch them grow, bear a fruit or a flower, is something I can never get bored of. I wish more people were into this. I was rushed to the hospital twice this week. Thursday morning, discharged that afternoon. My blood pressure was at 192/128 with a heart rate of 135. Almost had a heart attack. Friday I had a heart attack and rushed by paramedics to the ER. I did see the light at one point. It was very weird and oddly peaceful. The only part of this world that was there with me was my 3 kids. That's it, nothing else. I'm a GM, so many worlds would die. I guess in my world, kindness and unconditional acts of compassion still exist. Yours, oh figment of my imagination.